ICC members only. Yes, exactly, exactly. So you need to keep this in mind. All right, so I think it is the right time. I'm sure you're here not to listen to me, but to Geoff, right? Let me start by introducing him a little bit. He's a teacher trainer, and consultant at the Technical University of Dortmund, Germany. And he's specialized in English for specific purposes, including engineering, social sciences, business communication skills, and English for urban planning. And he is also chair of the Anglo-German Society in Dortmund and is working on promoting the city partnership between Dortmund and Leeds and bringing together groups of interests such as schools, senior citizens, and people from the creative arts. And one of his particular interests is humor. That's why we are here, right? And how to use humor in the language classroom to promote language learning and intercultural competence. He has published 2 books on this topic, which offer photocopiable materials for use in EFL courses. So, ladies and gentlemen, here we have Geoff Tranter telling us testing times. Nazan, can you start the recording, please?
It is recording.
Ah, perfect. Geoff, the floor is yours. We are waiting for you.
Right. Well, welcome everybody. I hope everybody can see the screen.
Yes, we do.
Right, I put it on full screen. Yes, welcome to the session. This is not my first session on humour. If you go into the archive, you'll see that I did 2 or 3 in the past. This is a special kind of humour. And you will have seen from the abstract that the name testing times is a little misleading or ambiguous. I chose the word testing times because that is the title of a hopefully humorous newsletter that I sometimes send out once or twice a year, where I try an ironical, humorous approach to life and try to establish the sometimes unseen connections between testing and teaching language and the Council of Europe on the one hand, and real life outside the linguistic zone on the other hand. And testing times, as I said before, is ambiguous, and people think it means the kind of difficult times we are going through at the present time. Sometimes people think it means the timetable for tests, but here we have a different meaning, which is the title of my magazine. Right. So, if you, by the way, if you Google or this was on Yahoo testing times, you see all kinds of things. All the various alternatives I've mentioned can be seen here. My testing times, as I said, is different, and I'll show you what I mean. This is the title page, usually testing times, special edition for the latest news on international test developments. It still looks quite normal, but if we put here 2018, an extremely successful year for EAP, in this case I'm talking about English for anti-democratic populists, and that's a good example of how I take language from testing and language teaching and put it into a different context. And I've been doing this now for over 30 years. That was my 2018 version. You can see here another one, Brexit Christmas. That was in 2017 with grim fairy tales and political pantomime. Then this was in 2019, Alice in Blunderland, the BJ, Boris Johnson glossary of Brexit terms. Then we have the Eurozone. To what extent is the Council of Europe affected by inflation? Can we say that B1 in future will only be B 0.9? English grammar, result of Brexit. There were certain changes to English grammar. May remains, Theresa May, but she had no might. Then we have a more serious topic. Back in 2014, when the Crimea was invaded, I devised a new curriculum for Russian for occupation purposes. Then we have the ICC politically correct test glossary, words to avoid when involved in testing, or legal English, UK government to focus on legal English in order to preserve ESP, which is English as a special language, British English. Or I also have an ICC examiner's recipe book, and I have an ICC examiner prayer. So you see how I take various aspects of language teaching, language testing, Common European Framework, etc., and put it into an everyday non-linguistic background or context in order to create humor, satire, irony, etc., etc. Now, you might be asking yourself, what has this got to do with the CEF? And the interesting thing is that humor is, although it's an important part of our lives, humor is hardly mentioned in the Common European Framework. There are exceptions, and if we look on, but this is the new version, or the relatively new version, the companion volume, we find here has a good command of common idiomatic expressions and colloquialisms and can play with words very well. So at C1, we should be able to create humor by playing with words, something that hasn't really been put onto any curriculum so far. At C2, of course, it goes further, has a good command of a very broad lexical repertoire. And of course, you need a lexical repertoire to play with words, including idiomatic expressions and colloquialisms, and shows awareness of connotative levels of meaning. And if we go then to social linguistic appropriateness, and look at C1, can understand humor, irony, and implicit cultural references and pick up nuances of meaning. And I'm sure we've all been in a situation where you are in a second language environment. Suddenly people start laughing, you've no idea why. And that's usually often because it has a cultural background or your linguistic background is not sufficient to understand the references and the nuances. We also have to create, that was understanding humor, but also to create humor, can use language flexibly and effectively for social purposes, including emotional, elusive, and joking usage. Now, I'm not talking about jokes, I'm talking about playing with words, because jokes are a very difficult topic because of all the cultural problems. It's very easy to make terrible mistakes and cause lots of misunderstandings by using a joke and where you do not understand the full implication of that joke for other cultures. So I am not talking about jokes, but I'm talking about using language for humorous purposes. Again, if we look at C2, again, good command, awareness of connotative levels of meaning. And what we now have is mediation, and humor is often something that needs to be mediated because not everybody understands every other nation's, every other cultural area's sense of humor. So many of the activities under mediation apply to humor, but particularly facilitating pluricultural space when you are involved in various cultures. And if we look at that definition, we can see here, can act as a mediator in intercultural encounters, contributing to a shared communication culture by managing ambiguity, playing with words, offering advice and heading off misunderstandings. So humor can be used in order to, at C1 level, perhaps starting at B2, but C1 level, we're not talking today about humor at lower levels. Because of the language competence that's required. But there is a place for humor at this particular level, both from an understanding point of view, both from a creative point of view, productive point of view, receptive point of view, but also from the point of view of mediation, the need to mediate very often if humor is misunderstood. So that's the starting point. We are talking now about playing with words, and playing with words is absolutely allowed. It should not be forbidden. Humor should always be allowed into the classroom. Playing with words is absolutely allowed. Right. I will be giving examples based on my testing times newsletter, but also I will be showing you how that could be used if you wish, or how this type of humour can be used if you wish in the classroom. And I will actually be giving you 1 or 2 tasks to see how far you can take this approach. Right. Where do we get the humour? Where can we start with playing with words? And very often newspapers, especially certain newspapers in Britain, are full of playing with words, especially the titles of The Sun. And this was the day before the referendum, Believe in Britain. And when the result came through, See you later, means bye-bye. Or here up yours, Delors, British always arrogance towards the French and Europe. Or we find examples like this one, Don't Cry for Me, RG Cleaner, which is, I will now have to mediate. Don't Cry for Me, RG Cleaner. This Argentine football player for Manchester City, one of the world's best, committed an offence and was given as punishment 250 hours community service and had to clean the streets. So Don't Cry for Me, RG Cleaner, like the song Don't Cry for Me, Argentina. Or here, Mr. Ashdown, the man in the picture, he was a leader of one of the political parties in Britain, but he was caught by this newspaper having an affair, and so it was Paddy Pantsdown instead of Ashdown. Or here, tortoise theft leaves owner shell-shocked. A big truck carrying fruit crashes on the freeway and creates jam. All examples of playing with words. A rock and a hard place. I'll go through these quickly. Here's one which is now quite up to date. There will be hell to pay. Everyone knows that Trump has a toupee. There will be hell to pay. Cost of loathing crisis. There is a cost of living crisis. The result of the cost of living crisis is that people who divorce or who separate because they no longer like each other are being forced to stay living together because they can't afford to have a separate flat. So it's the cost of loathing crisis. Midget sues grocery sites belittling demand. Or From Russia with Gloves, like the title of the James Bond film, From Russia with Love. Marijuana issue sent to a joint committee. Rocky Horror Show normally, Jockey Horror Show. This was on the day of the Scottish referendum. Would they leave the United Kingdom or not? Or here, a one-armed man applauds the kindness of strangers. How can a one-armed man applaud? You also find them in football games, especially in the sports pages. Swedes was a Swedish team. They beat the English team 2-1. The English team played like idiots, so they were called turnips, and Swedes 2, turnips 1. Or here, German worst at penalties. These are terrible puns. Here for Turkish, the Chelsea, an English team, got through to the final of the European Championships, which were to be played in Istanbul, so it was Turkish delight. And here we have high noon, or English players lost a game in Antwerp, and a twerp means an idiot. So they played like idiots, they played like twerps in Antwerps, and so near, not so far, with an F, with a V means the video assisted refereeing. Or one more, you can't. In Italian, you can't be serious as a title. So those are examples of different types of headlines which can be used in the classroom if you wish to show how words are played with in the press. Another example is this book, and I don't know if you know the radio program. I'm sorry, I haven't a clue, but they have lots of funny sketches playing with words. And words like here, insane, suffragette, disdain, liability, germination. And here comes the first task for you. Here is their definition. These are funny definitions of normal words. So in the blue boxes, we have the normal words. In the yellow boxes, we have the definitions. For example, I'll show you the first one. Insane means open air swimming in Paris, because the river Seine, insane open air swimming in Paris. So my question is now, would anyone like to match the other words and the definitions? So we have suffragette, disdain, liability, germination, and candid.
I have one,
Right,
hopefully. Candid is the past tense of a CFR descriptor.
that's right. Can do, and candid is the past tense. That's right. Any
Yes.
more volunteers?
Yes, another participant guessed the same thing about candid, and liability, important skill for a politician.
That's right, the ability to lie.
Exactly.
Right.
All right.
If anybody has travelled by Ryanair, they should get the correct answer.
Suffragette gate.
Suffragette.
Yes.
Suffragette, and you suffer in
Suffer.
Ryanair, so it's a suffragette.
Germination, a very unhealthy country.
That's right. German nation, so germination,
Yes.
a very unhealthy country. And we only
And
have one left.
Beatrix.
Well, that's be impolite to somebody from Copenhagen to disdain.
Day.
Yeah, so they would have the answers. Ryanair for suffragette, disdain, liability, the skill for a politician, a very unhealthy country, germination, and candid. So we see how we are playing with words. And a few more. I won't ask you, we start on the left-hand side. Blemish is the official language in Brussels. Not Flemish, but blemish. And what a baggage handler does to your luggage, he throw. All right, he throw. And megawatt, if you haven't understood, you say what, but very, very loud, so it is a megawatt. Entente cordiale is a happy French camper. Brexit is a breakfast cereal laxative. Martini is a very small supermarket. Faux pas means that is not my father. And frowning is wife of Herr Ning. And contextualize, to send fraudulent WhatsApps, some texts and con. Elemental is the Spanish village idiot. And if you've had a lot of hot curry, download. And the geriatric is a German footballer who scored 3 goals, because the 3 goals is a hat trick. And if you don't like to be stuck in a lift with Father Christmas, that is claustrophobia. So we see how easy it is to set up something similar like this. If you have the book, which I showed you before, there are hundreds and hundreds of them, and you just take 12 in the middle and 12 outside, and then ask them to link them up in a C1 class. That will be a lot of fun. Incidentally, if anybody here does teacher training, English teacher training, this is also a good way of training teachers in the question of language awareness, because you can see how people can play with words. So it can be used in teacher training as well as in teaching. We'll move on. Now we have them all together. Right. Another one is crosswords, and there are special kinds of crosswords in British newspapers called cryptic crosswords, where they're playing with words. And if we look at number 17, the clue is huge Elgar composition, and that means an anagram of Elgar, because it composed, and the answer is large, because that is an anagram of Elgar. We'll do another one. Won't do them all. Is a pub to profit from good deal. The word for pub is another word for pub is a bar, and to profit from is to gain, so it is a bargain. And a third possibility would be people or basic language. And that means hidden in the word basic language, you will find a word which means people, and that word is clan. Basic, the C of basic, and the L-A-N of language. And so there are many more in there. We don't have to do them all, but you can see that a cryptic crossword like this can be a way of showing people how to play with the words. Do you all know who Nigel Farage is? Mr. Brexit. He's the man, the right-wing extremist in British politics who was the leader of the Brexit movement. But he's known for telling lies. He's known for not being truthful. He's known for all kinds of stupid games. And very near to his name is the word farrago. Farage is his name, but farrago is very similar. And I looked up in 4 dictionaries, what does the English word farrago mean? And it means a confused mixture, a hodgepodge, a medley. That was from dictionary.com, or from vocabulary.com, a disorganized mix of things that don't fit together, which is a good way of expressing Brexit. A jumble or medley of disorganized, haphazard, or even nonsensical ideas or elements. That comes from Merriam-Webster. And the last one is the best. From Cambridge, he told us a farrago of lies, which he did in order to get Brexit. And that is not from me, that is from 4 dictionaries, which you can find online. So we're playing with words, playing with people's names, mixing words together, etc., etc. Let's come to one of my testing times now. This was done in 2014, and that was when Crimea was invaded. And Lindy, did you know that Crimea is an anagram of a crime? Which is quite an interesting coincidence. But I decided to write a syllabus for an examination on Russian for occupation purposes. And we haven't got time to, I'll just show you the ones I think you might be interested in. For example, unlike conventional standardized tests based on input, Russian for occupational purposes is strictly and exclusively based on authentic Putin. So it's not input, it's Putin. And there's a grammar section. It consists of imperatives, subordinate clauses, other subordinating devices, a high dominance of masculine forms. Russian for occupation purposes includes demonstratives, possessives, and negatives, and only in direct speech. And looking to the future, Russian for occupation purposes has fulfilled its linguistic aims, and the plan is to prevent regional variations, contractions, post-modifiers, backshift, and flexibility for borderline candidates. So there we see this satire on from a political level. They want to prevent regional variations, contractions, etc., etc. And it's also under the levels of the Common European Framework, or the Communist European Framework. So A1 marks, B2, A2 marks, B1 marks, B2 marks, C1 marks, or C2 marks, depending on how many marks you get. All right. And the first reactions from people from the affected areas are less than positive. In the words of a spokesperson, Russian for occupational purposes will not be accepted. In fact, it will be detested in the real sense of the word. You can also do this with wine, because some words that have to do with testing or politics have to do with wine. Beaujolais and Bojo, that is the short for Boris Johnson. So we have Beaujolais. This wine is usually accompanied by a variety of fudge and porkies. Porkies are lies, pork pies, lies, together with a wide range of crudity, and goes inexplicably well with game birds. It is remarkably weak in connection with all forms of fish, where it can easily hook, lion, and sinker. And Boris Johnson wine has failed to reach maturity. It frequently displays a distinct lack of subtlety, finesse, and concentration. And let's hope there is a new Beaujolais Nouveau soon. You may also have heard of the wine Sovereign Blanc. Yeah, not usual, but here's Blanc, Bleu, et Rouge, and of course the wine grape called Primitivo, all of which goes with Brexit. And these two grapes are the favourite wines of all Brexiters and have produced vigorous, robust wines. This was 16, the vintage, that was the year of the referendum, was aggressive. And these wines react violently when served with sauce hollandaise, Danish pastries, Brussels sprouts, bratwurst, spaghetti bolognese, and similar dishes. Okay, and so AOC for testing times means absolutely our control. We want our wines back. And then I'm sure you've heard of Mr. Rees-Mogg, who is the man who looks like a Victorian prince. He has his own wine, Mock Riesling, which is pronounced Mogg Riesling. There we can see a few of these examples of playing with words. The biggest plonker in town, an undistinguished wine based on thick-skinned grapes. It lacks fizz. It's unlikely to cause the palate to salivate, with little evidence of refined richness. It's characterized by noble and ignoble rot. Regular pruning is a must. And here, the wine is usually either found in a cock-up or Mogg Riesling, or in a variety of old-fashioned Victorian pie-in-the-sky dishes, and then ends up in a stew. So playing with words to do with testing on the one hand, but to do with food on the other hand, as a kind of satire on the Brexit policy of the Conservative government in Britain. Mrs. Priti Patel, this is again against the Conservative government. As you may gather, I am not a supporter of the Conservative government, and they offer so many possibilities to attack them. Their home Minister of External Affairs in 2020 was a lady called Priti Patel, and I have renamed her Priti Pathetic because of her policies. And she was responsible, according to my satire now, not as admissions officer, but the non-admissions, because she wanted to keep all foreign students out of Britain. And she was known as peremptory. She was involved in IELTS, which is immigration ejection by language testing schemes, and TOEFL, throwing out or expelling foreign language students. And she's also not for common entrance examinations, but for common exit examinations for people leaving the country. Here a few more. She's responsible for close tests, so she closes the doors. She doesn't want borderline candidates, etc., etc. So we needn't go through them all. I wanted to give you an impression of the type of wordplay which is contained in these documents. Or a Brexit test. What was going to happen to English after Brexit? And we have English, British English first. Let's take back control, and we want our language back. So vote for real English. No more German measles, no more Brussels sprouts, no more Swiss rolls, no more taking French leave, no more Great Danes, no more Dutch courage, no more Turkish delight, no more Portuguese men of war. And the Venetian blind should be the Westminster blind, because they are. And French Polish should be British British. And we have the slogan, British rule, English excels if Tory led. Another feature of my testing times is to show variations in the system of A, B, C, A1, A2, B1, B1, B2, C1, C2, and I devised a zero level English, A0. And in the A0, in the examination, They are expected to read jokes and amusing anecdotes without laughing. If you laugh, you fail the test. An explicit pornographic adult material without their eyes becoming glazed. They have to be able to express non-understanding by shrugging the shoulders, scratching the cranium, opening of the arms, one or two more fingers, and know how to use the fingers in order to show that they don't understand. I also have a test for train drivers, and this examination, as you can see under A, always starts 5 minutes late. People are never informed in advance how late the test is going to start and why there is a delay. The test is liable to stop for indefinite periods due to technical failures, and every 10th examination will suffer a technical failure causing the cancellation of the test. And if you look at the level definitions underneath, C1, B2, B1, A2, you can see the better your English, the lower you are. And the C1 test of oral production for train announcers can deliver very short rehearsed announcements which are only intelligible to listeners who are prepared to concentrate. We also have, moment here, here's another task for you. And you are all linguists. You all have some knowledge of linguistic terms. For example, multiple choice. The new definition of multiple choice is a test format for assessing the competence, integrity, and truthfulness in government. And the Tory party has set new standards with 5 prime ministers in 14 years, 3 of them within the record time of only 50 days. Or we have the future perfect continuous. With the testing times definition, this means a tense promise of jam tomorrow, with the voter usually discovering after purchase that they have bought sour grapes. Or tonic stress, a sound pattern with stressful situations such as a lockdown that requires members of the government to indulge in gin and tonic de or distress parties. Now, if we go to the next one, here is a definition. What linguistic phenomenon is that the definition of? Here, I help. That was a scandal in the Tory government during the lockdown. That is a definition of irregular verbs. The mandatory deduction was taken by the finance department from working people's income to cover the cost of Partygate. Sin tax. And the last one is a zero relative. So relatives of the Conservative Party pay 0 tax. Something completely different, marriage. Can anybody suggest words that are found in grammar and in the context of marriage? Ah, I moved it too quickly. There we are. I moved that too quickly, so my finger moved. Here we are, voice. Does the wife have an active voice or a passive voice? Is the man's speech direct or indirect? Do the partners have definite or indefinite articles, objects? Are the verbs and the verbal activities regular or irregular, and do the long forms shorten? Do the partners have weak or strong endings? How singular and plural are the relationships of the 2 partners? And the mood, is it emphatic, interrogatory? Are their pronouns personal, impersonal, reciprocal, possessive, demonstrative? And how demonstrative is the third person singular, female or male? To what extent are subjects and verbs in concordance? If there are too many question marks and exclamation marks between the two partners, the marriage can come to a full stop. And does the one partner have a fixation or suffer from suffixes? And to what extent do the partners morph, adding to their third person singular? So this can work with not only serious things like war and food, also marriage. Boris Johnson had to resign. Every time he did something wrong, he always had an excuse. Now, if Boris Johnson was looking for an excuse, he said, I was unaware that I was in a test event, or I was following a low syntax policy, or I had a colossal success in my national placement test in December 19. The test gathering was obviously under the control of EU grammar remainers. I got all the definite articles correct, apart from Article 16 in the Northern Ireland Protocol, which is turning out to be far more indefinite. I may have got a few morphemes wrong, but I got the big gender calls, Petronella, Anna, Helen, Jennifer, right? I was ambushed by a test item that seemed to me to be a piece of cake. I want to use post modifiers to make all my true-false answers flexible. And here, I have about 36 of these. These are just some of them. I was humbled by a multiple choice task that required progressive tense forms. I allowed many solutions to be corrupted and masked by relatives and other public school cohorts, etc., etc. So you get the message. I'll just give you a couple of seconds to go through those. Boris Johnson, although he did lots of things wrong, he always tried to have some excuse. It was never anybody else's fault, which is what people like to do when they fail a test, if it's a language test. So we'll move on. Now, ICC language test. If there was a real ICC language test, it would have to be something special. The special thing about an ICC language test is that every sentence consists of chains of words which follow ICC. So you are Mr. Smith, aren't you? I'm called Charles. My name is so-and-so. This is Mrs. So-and-so. I'm charmed completely. Did you have to wait a long time? I cleverly clocked in correct chronology. Where do you live? In Churchill Close in city centre. It's quite convenient. Why have you been learning English? It's clear communication's important concerning career. Any suggestions? Is English your first foreign language? What other languages do you speak? Now you are the candidate.
I communicate in a language. Say something.
I can communicate.
In Chinese.
Chinese, Catalan, Icelandic, Cambodian, Cockney idioms, Creole, Czech, Italian, Canadian cliches. Why are you taking the certificate examination and what can you use it for? I can't comment. It could compromise. How long have you been learning English? It's centuries, certainly. Where have you been learning English? In conversation classes, intensive communication courses, in community colleges, including correspondence courses. Am I speaking clearly enough? I can comprehend in complete clarity if conversation continues in controlled contexts. If you can't understand me, we can repeat the questions. I'll cry, can't identify, can't correctly in challenging circumstances. And he continues in second one. A friend of yours has a bad headache. Say you are sorry and give him some advice. I commiserate completely. I'd consult a chemist. A friend asks you about traveling to your country. He's afraid there might not be a bus from the ferry. Tell him what to do if that happens and how you will help. If connecting coach is inconveniently cancelled, catch intercity coach, I'll collect. An American friend asks you what the best way of paying bills in your country. International credit cards, if correctly charged, it's considerably cheaper. I can't commend in cash and checks. And ask you which language exams he should take. Tell him about the ICC certificates and explain the importance. ICC certificates can improve careers considerably. International companies consider ICC certificates confirm interlocutor-oriented communication competence, including commercial correspondence. Its common core is commendable curriculum-wise. Or topic, improving culinary culture. Why have you chosen this topic? It's culture, consequently interesting, consequently chosen. What kind of food do you prefer, etc., etc., etc. How do you try to watch your health? Do you ever eat in restaurants? That can be lots of fun in the classroom. Yeah? If you have something really an interesting abbreviation that's that doesn't have to be ICC. ICC works very well, but it doesn't have to be ICC. Right. Rest of the book. Got time? Yes, well, time. Rest of the book. Can you think of words that relate to cooking and testing? Any offers? We already have candidate in the soup. All right. One candidate, not too fresh, two hard-baked examiners, a set of bland questions, and a long, dark room. Order the candidates well in advance to ensure that the skin will be nice and moist. After the softening up process, separate the candidates carefully in a cool place. Toss the questions over the candidate and grill carefully under a bright light for approximately 2 minutes. Allow the candidates to stew in their own juice as long as possible until a bright red color appears all over the face. Hard-boiled candidates may need more than average pressure, in which case pepper with checking questions. In really hard cases, tenderize with the selection of choice candid prompts and make mincemeat out of them. Allow to cool for a few seconds by tossing papers with a maximum of noise and whisking a pen around the marking sheet. That should produce a nice glazed look on the candidate's face. Time required approximately 2 to 5 minutes, depending on the thickness of the candidates. And we also have a main course, roast candidate. The procedure, roast candidate gently until their answers are really crisp. If the candidates make a real hash of the example, or if questions are underdone and the answers appear half-baked, turn up the heat at regular intervals until the candidates start to melt. Should the candidate fail to respond to any of the items, make a meal of it by battering them with repeats until they bubble and squeak, and all answers should be taken with a pinch of salt. And those who like desserts, we have candidates stewed in their own juice, examiners bananas, syllabub, guided trifles, iced cream cake, very icy, candidate waffle, and examiner's fudge. Let the candidates make a right pudding, fool of themselves, especially if they've had their chips in the main course and have frittered away their chances. Shake them with 1 or 2 superfluous prompts or give them the raspberry until they produce sweet FA. 10 minutes, depending on the number of sweet nothings coming from the candidates. Right. And this is the last one. So there's a limit to any laughter that you can produce. The ICC examiner's prayer. May your functions be properly structured and never reduced to motions. May your situations be properly contextualized. May your long forms never shorten. May your articles remain definite and your objects direct. May your question marks lead to the exclamation marks without too many full stops. May your voice remain active, not passive. May your multiple choices produce as many interesting distractors as possible. May your imperfect past and your simple present lead to a future perfect continuous. May your future not be conditional upon the form of your auxiliaries. May you have as few tense problems as possible. May your relationships not be too singular without becoming too floral. May all your interrogatives be answered in the affirmative. May all your strong verbs be regular. May your prefixes never fix and your suffixes never suffer. May your back formation or fronting never be marked. May all your collective nouns remain in concord. May your uncountables never be counted. May your sin never be taxed. May your endings never be irregular, weak, or modified. May your adjuncts never be disjunctive. May your gender never be dual or zero. May your adverbs of fruit, manner, and place become adverbs of frequency. May your personal transfer phases never degenerate to simple drills. May your verbal activities remain progressive, and may your positions never be in apposition. So there we have a selection of testing times in the sense of my 36 years of news sheets. And there are indeed testing times. So thanks for coming. And thanks for laughing in the right place. So I'll take that down, and then we can ask and answer any questions that you may have.
Amazing, brilliant work. I really needed this personally. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank for our participants as well, but you made my day. I really needed that. Wonderful. Thank you.
Right. Any questions, any comments?
I'm also checking the message box, the chat box. If you have any questions for our speaker, please raise your hand or you can type. I can only see the thanks notes for you.
Yes, definitely.
I'm working with pre-service language teachers in Turkey. So this gave me an idea that I should have been using, but now I can start using with my students, that they can, it was like the sentence you said, they should be allowed to play with the words. So I'll definitely create a place for that in my classes. Someone's asking if they can subscribe to testing times. How does it work?
Yes, they should send me a mail. Just a moment. I'll put my address in the chat box. All right.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
I'm just looking for something. Just one moment. So I'll go to the chat box.
All right, wonderful. I'll do that too. I'll send an email as well.
Yeah. And I have one in preparation for Christmas. I do definitely every Christmas, and sometimes during the year, if things, if anything shows itself to be suitable for such treatment. It does happen quite a lot. Things like football are often a good topic. A moment.
And how did you start with this? What was your motivation? It's very interesting.
A lot of it comes from frustration, because frustration is humor is a good way of getting rid of frustration. It's just my basic sense of humor. I've been following humor programs and humor books and things. I have a whole collection of humor material in my at home, and so I'm very, very interested in humor. And as I say, I've become very creative when it's when I'm frustrated, and when I'm on long train journeys. They can also be frustrating, but then I have time and peace, and I can become quite creative in a humorous way.
And when you first started using in teaching, how were the reactions? Have you seen like a different attitude from your students, or?
Yes, I only do it in certain courses at a high level. They love it. They love it. But it's not I can do it perhaps once a term. I can't do it every week at all. It's just sometimes it's only 15 minutes, but those 15 minutes can motivate people.
So you're showing some of the examples and you're also asking them to create just like the way you did it with us?
If I think the people are able to do it, because if there's no response, then it's frustrating and then it doesn't work. It's counterproductive. But if I think that people can manage it, then definitely I do that.
Good to know. Great.
Yep.
All right, everyone, if you don't have any questions, let me share my screen once again.
I have one more thing to show. Perhaps.
Please.
Yeah. Because it's near Christmas, here is a Christmas carol.
Oh, the 12 days of Brexit.
On the first day of Brexit, my Boris gave to me a party steeped in bigotry. On the second day of Brexit, my Boris gave to me 2 fake news items and a Chancellor who ignores poverty. On the third day of Brexit, my Boris gave to me 3 xenophobe phrases, 2 fake news items, and a speech full of Brexit mythology. On the fourth day of Brexit, my Boris gave to me 4 shouts of humbug, 3 xenophobe phrases, 2 fake news items, and a government averse to veracity. On the 5th day of Brexit, my Boris gave to me 5 no ifs or buts, 4 shouts of humbug, 3 xenophobe phrases, 2 fake news items, and a government lacking honesty. On the 6th day of Brexit, my Boris gave to me 6 Rees-Mogg sleeping, 7 prevarications, 8 MPs with hedge funds, 9 business, 10 misogynist phrases, 11 ditches for dying, and 12 get Brexit done's. So that is something you can sing if you have a Brexit class.
Awesome. They're amazing. But that requires a lot of creativity too.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Absolutely, yes.
But it's fun.
And amazing, fantastic.
I enjoy it myself.
I think you're doing all these things first to enjoy, right? And then maybe to help other people enjoy.
Yes, there's no point in keeping things to yourself. If you enjoy them, I'm sure other people will enjoy them. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Everyone's writing fantastic, brilliant, excellent. These are the adjectives that I'm seeing here. Huge thanks, they're saying. Thank you very much, everyone. We're going to have the next webinar on international partnerships, key points for reaching agreement, which is going to be on the 11th of December. And at the same time, just the time we have it now, by David Stringer. And as I announced, we have ICC conference coming up next year in Cyprus, Larnaca, right, in May, 9 to 11 May. And we also have a journal that we can publish your articles for free if you're interested in publishing theoretical or practical work. And also we have an amazing certificate, Eurolta. If you're teaching English to adults, you can definitely have a look at on our website and see the certificate internationally recognized. Here I can also share a little bit of it, right? This is going to be our next webinar, as I've just mentioned, and this is our conference. You see the topics, but the theme isn't limited to these. Again, we kindly invite you to check our website for more details.
And May is the best time for Cyprus.
Exactly. Very good point. Very good point. And if you become a member, you receive a certificate from our webinars. You're able to attend the conferences and many more opportunities. So ICC is a non-governmental international organization looking for more and more partnerships. If you're interested in keeping yourself updated and collaborate with other colleagues from different countries, you're more than welcome to be a member. And you see that the website, visit our website, and you will see more and more information. And if you want to have a certificate we provide the webinars for free for everyone, but we provide the certificates only to ICC members. So please send an email to us if you're a member. We will immediately prepare the certificate and send it to you. Thank you very much, everyone, for making this webinar amazingly fruitful. And
Yes.
thank you, Nazan. And
Yes, and to wrap up this, and thank you all of you for your participation for this enriching session. Thank you, Geoff. It was really fantastic, and we will be together, as Burcu mentioned, in December also. And please visit our website to see our opportunities. But first of all, I would like to thank all of you for your participation. Thank you.
We have one question about the conference, but this time the conference is going to be only on-site, right?
On site.
Naza?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, on site.
This
The conference
year,
is on site, yes.
this year we want to see you face to face. So please be
Yes.
there with us to enjoy Larnaca.
Yes. Join us in Larnaca. It's a fantastic place. I live in Cyprus and I can say that.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Geoff. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for
Bye.
joining us. Bye-bye. Thank you,
Bye.
Burcu.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm going to end the conference. Geoff, again, thank you very much being here and sharing your experiences, ideas with us. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.